Music and Booze with Mo is produced and distributed by EatsDrinksTV, a service of the Center for Culinary Culture, home of the Cocktail Collection, and First Reel Entertainment, and is available wherever fine podcasts can be heard. The Center for Culinary Culture, telling the story of food and drink, one taste at a time. Welcome to Music and Booze with Mo. I'm Mo Herms, and I've worked in the music industry most of my life, so have met some pretty amazing musicians over the years. I also love a good cocktail, and I've encountered some really interesting bartenders as well. It seems that there's a lot of crossover, so when I can, I like to talk to musicians and bartenders about music and booze. Join us at the bar, won't you? Music and Booze with Mo is brought to you by The Mermaid, an underwater oasis with tropical cocktails and more, located in the Little Tokyo district of downtown LA. Follow The Mermaid on Instagram at The Mermaid LA for a complete listing of hours, events, and more. The Mermaid LA is proudly woman and Latin owned, and you can visit them at 428 East 2nd Street in downtown Los Angeles. On this episode, I get to talk to Damien Cavicchi, who is one of the owners of three venues out in Jackson, Mississippi. Mostly we are talking about music venue Hal & Mal's and its adjoining speakeasy, The Walk-In. The Walk-In is tucked away within Hal & Mal's, which is a legendary music venue in Jackson, which has been around longer than Damien's been a part of it, and amazing things have happened in that space. So they added to it in the last year or so by putting a little speakeasy in there. Damien himself, tried to play music when he was younger, some guitar, fronting some bands. We'll talk about that. But he went into chef as opposed to bartender. However, when the Walk-In opened, found those skills to be really handy when putting together a non-alcoholic menu so that he could work alongside his bartenders and they could create together. So sit back and listen as we chat about all of these journeys and so much music, a little bit of skateboarding, all kinds of stuff to talk about here.
My name is Damien Cavicchi. We are in Jackson, Mississippi with Hal & Mal's, The Walk-In, Campbell's Bakery. I'm not a bartender, but I am a chef and restaurateur. We have Hal & Mal's, which was a music venue since 1985. It's also a restaurant. And then the Walk-In opened a year ago this past October as kind of a craft cocktail lounge that serves a fun menu of Asian-inspired bar food. It stays open late, serving food late. It has the building itself was a part of the rail depot. The train tracks ran right behind the building, and then later it became like a food service warehouse for a company called Merchants Foods. And so it's got a lot of interesting features in the building, a lot of characteristics. The Walk-In bar was actually a walk-in cooler. So it was really neat when we were doing construction and renovation. We were like taking the walls, off, and it was that foam installation that you have in walk-in cooler. So the name kind of was born that way. But the Hal & Mal's building is downtown Jackson. It has been kind of an iconic sort of asset to the city for a long time. R.L. Burnside has played there, James Brown, The Strokes, B.B. King, lots of local, blues artists. And so Jackson is positioned kind of, in between, Memphis and New Orleans,
Hmm.
so it's kind of like a, stop on a Sunday night if you're on tour, or you're driving
Yeah.
through Monday night. So just trying to keep that going. So, I think that's what drew me in a lot was like the music history of that, of that building and that just all those stories.
Well, yeah, like you're saying, I mean, it's great to hear that the building itself has that history, but then also just Jackson, Mississippi. I mean, that is a
Yeah.
classic music town. It's one of those, I don't think it's maybe as high on the radar unless somebody starts thinking about it and they're like, oh, wait, Mississippi. Yeah, there's a lot of music that comes out of there. So, did you open up Hal and Mel's or was it already in existence when you became owner of it?
So it was already in existence.
Hmm.
Hal and Miles were two brothers. Malcolm is actually my neighbor, and
Oh,
his brother. So he was like the music guy, front of house, and then his brother Hal was the chef.
mhm.
And so this was born back in the mid 80s. So I was doing some menu consulting, as a chef, and then one thing led to another. It's a few years ago now.
Mhm.
And he's like, Malcolm was like, I don't know if I want to be the one that wants to answer the phone every time the toilet stopped up. He's getting older. So I was like, sure, I do. I've always liked old things, whenever
Yeah.
we travel, if I'm going to New York, I'm going, to like the Lower East Side, I
Yeah.
like the lived in, things. And when you walk into Hallamals, we have multiple rooms in there. I really feel like I joke, but I really think it's real. You can feel the energy of all the things that have
Oh, yeah,
happened in that
absolutely.
building. It's real,
Mhm.
and it's just not something you can get out of a strip mall restaurant or new construction, So I'm grateful to keep it going. Their story is a family run. There's actually a book about Hallamals, but it's always been a family run place. And so my kids have worked there. My wife's office is upstairs, and so we're just kind of just trying to keep it going and keep bringing good music and food and drinks and cocktails and
Mhm.
so.
So, since you've been there, let's talk about the drinks at the music venue first, because that tends to be kind of a like shot in a beer or vodka sodas, vodka crayons, whatever. Is it still kind of running that way, or did you guys start getting a little crafty there? You're like, oh, let's give people a nicer margarita, or does it matter? They're just there for the
You know,
music.
Yeah, it really depends on what kind of show it is, right?
Mhm.
So, if it's a rap show or a country show or an indie rock show or a punk show, you kind of can tailor what you're serving, but all mostly it's not very craft. Honestly, it's
Mhm.
just,
I wouldn't
like
expect it. Yeah.
yeah, that part of the building is it's all about speed. So, we have there's
Yeah.
speed bars over there.
Yeah, everyone wants their 7 and 7 so they can get back to the stage, right?
Exactly, but we do have we try to feature a lot of local stuff as I think most restaurants do. So we have a vodka distillery here called Cathead.
Oh,
We
cool.
have a local brewery called Fertile Ground. And so we're always, that Cathead vodkas are well. Fertile Ground is always on draft and cans. And there's a rum place in southern Mississippi, Circle Hook. So really, as coming as a chef or a restaurateur, I'm thinking, what's the best possible product that we can get to serve, and then when that can also be a local product, then it's a
Mhm,
win-win.
mhm.
People love a
We,
story.
well, actually, yeah, they love a story. And actually, the trend now, supposedly with the kids today, they keep talking about how the kids are not wanting to drink as much. And then they're finding, well, actually, the kids do drink, but they want an experience with that drink, So they're appreciating the local stuff. They're appreciating it, something that feels more tailored to where they live and who they are and where they're at. And that's exactly what you guys are doing. So, having that hometown feel extend all the way to the bottom of your well is amazing. That's fantastic that you're able to do that. And since you're a chef, I'm sure that you're aware of kind of the sustainability of stuff like that too, and pricing and everything, and trying to make
Yeah,
that
and
work.
then and Jackson's really, it's a small community, so
Mhm.
the more that we can, support each other,
Yeah.
it's just a good feeling. Everybody knows each other, and
Yeah.
so, Halloween is a place for locals, but also for tourists, and
Hmm.
it's just a place where everybody feels comfortable.
Yeah.
Every type of human, comes to Halloween and they walk in. So we don't like cliques. We don't like,
Mhm.
we're very inclusive and it feels good.
Well, you were talking about before we started recording, you were talking about like kind of the creation of the walk-in and how that came to be. And did you, when you started becoming involved in Hal and Mal's and such, did you ever have in the back of your head, um, you know what, maybe we can have a little speakeasy here, or let's have a little craft thing, or did it just sort of one day you're like, why aren't we using this space for that? Or what was the inspiration to actually make it happen?
So yeah, the building has, a primary dining room and there's live music in the dining room pretty much every night. And then it has two other like music venue rooms. And then the space where the walk-in is adjacent to a courtyard, which is a gorgeous kind of New Orleans vibe courtyard. And the room used to be a brew pub. It was the brothers had their own microbrewery there years ago. But in later years, recently, it was just this kind of banged up old room that didn't get used a lot. It was like punk rock shows for like 60 kids. It was, just
That's
like
awesome.
there was always the thought that we should put something that was experiential there, that was craft cocktails and kind of like chef forward, fun food. And my favorite little place on my way home, Finian's Pub, they serve late night food. So it was the natural place to stop if you're in the restaurant business, in the bar business, music venue business, just to get a late night, burger or, actually they had really good food. And so after a lot of years in business, they closed. And so we're sitting on this idea for the walk-in. And, what that created was, there was definitely a need for late night food. And so we served food till midnight. We pulled the trigger in September, I think it was, of 24, and actually got the whole project flipped in about 30 days.
Whoa.
And it just came together.
That's crazy. I guess it helps when
So
you
yeah,
already own the space and you don't have to go through the
yes.
pyramids again because it's already there. But
And
wow.
Mary Sanders, my wife, is a designer, knows contractors, and so she was just kind of managing the renovation, kept it moving, and so we were just thinking, like, all right, food, drinks, playlist, vibe, what's the
Mhm,
experience like, and it's
mhm,
all those things together just kind of created this, I guess, eclectic mix of, ingredients to be what the walk-in is.
mhm. So you said you're a chef, not a bartender, but that makes me feel you still have a good palate for everything. And so when you were opening up the space, I'm guessing you're like, well, this one will have the cocktails here. So
Exactly.
how did that get started for you? I mean, I'm sure you had to hire somebody if you weren't doing it yourself, but you are still the chef. You must have had some involvement in creating that cocktail set.
Yeah, I think we were a little bit stumped in the beginning. I remember like sitting at the Howlin' Mouse bar one night, and my wife was there, and one of my friends was there, and I'm like working on the menu, and I'm stuck, and I'm like, what does this food need to be? It was kind of coming out as like this Asian inspired thing with like, kung pao bao buns and, honey
Mm,
walnut shrimp and poo poo platters. And they were just like, it can be whatever we want, so make the
yeah.
food whatever you're feeling. So that's where it went. And then with the cocktails, we have a great team of bartenders, and I had one who had been with us for a while named Georgie, and she had just tons of creativity and tons of ideas. And so she got to work. I got to work on the mocktails because we have, a
Mm.
big selection of mocktails that are really good. Um, and and then my favorite, is I'm a tequila cliche. My favorite spirit
I'm an
is
agave
tequila.
girl, so no shame here.
So I was like, okay, this is all mixed up. So let's just do like, 25 really good tequilas on the menu and as many mezcals as we can get. And so that's kind of our centerpiece for the bar is kind of that. And and then the drinks are just kind of all over the place. So um, I've got some of my favorites were like Sage Against the Machine. That's one of our cocktail ones.
Oh, I always like to hear a good song pun or song title drink, I'm guessing there was sage in that. Do you remember what else was in that drink?
I think it's Old Forester, bourbon, Cointreau, blackberry shrub, lemon, and then we do the blowtorch
Like
sage
with the
right before
sage,
it goes out.
that
So
must
it's
smell so
smoking as you get it.
nice.
Um, it's
That's so
really
good.
good.
Well,
Um,
so since I'm curious to know why you focused for yourself on the non-alcoholic stuff. Did you just feel more comfortable with that than mixing with the all of the boozy stuff since it's leans maybe a little more chefy?
Well, you mentioned it earlier. I think that it was a combination of things that we definitely have seen sales in like younger people. The
Mm,
alcohol sales are really on the decline. What you said is totally true about there needing
yeah,
to be an experience.
yeah.
Um, but also I think the bartender team was not really getting it done. They were just kind of focused on
On
the
the
other ones.
booze.
So it's like, okay, I'll take these. We open in 3 days. I'll take
Mhm.
these. And my thought around them was, was a little bit around wellness, right? So let's not just make like, artificial syrupy, non-alcoholic drinks. Let's try to look at things like ginseng. That one came out really good. We have a one called Ginseng Your Heart Out. And
I'm already
that's
into it.
and it's I think it's ginseng tea, ginger beer, and then some kind of shrub and something else.
Hmm.
Um, And then I also had some fails. I drink my coffee in the morning with the addition of mushroom powder and
Hmm.
creatine. And I was thinking, hey, mushroom powder makes you feel good. And so we started working on a mushroom powder based drink, and it was a disaster. Like I liked it. But then the team was like, we just don't think people are going to want this as a mocktail. So, uh,
Well, I mean,
but
I when we opened our bar, which is 7 years now, at that time, I remember talking to my two partners being like, we have to have a couple NA stuff, a couple NA drinks on there. And because that drove me nuts all the time. I mean, I love a good cocktail, but as I got older, I'm like, my metabolism's slowing down a little bit. So, I don't want to have slam a couple drinks and then get in my car and have it all hit me when I'm halfway home. And so I'm like, I'll have my one and then I'll have an NA, but I didn't always want it to be like, ginger ale. They're like beer, bar ginger ale. And one thing I've loved over the last probably, I feel like it's decade, is just the creativity that we've seen with the spirit-free drinks now. And I think it's come from chefs like yourself because you go in there and you're like, we can do something better than this. We have
yeah.
tonic, but we also have raspberries and we also have this and we have these beautiful teas that we can make a syrup out of or, things like that. So I'd love to hear like the kind of stuff you were having fun with that since you said you have a pretty healthy both physically and on the list, selection of drinks. I'd love to hear some of your successes there. Just inspire other people.
Yeah. I think that when you think about the cocktail, it's art. It's like music,
Mm-hmm.
it's like food. It's all art.
I think of cocktails as
Um,
a little dessert almost. That's
and I
in
think
my brain. I always think of them like that. It's been prepared.
yeah, and if you're not drinking for whatever reason,
Hmm.
um, I don't think that you should have to be the person at the table that's got a Coke or a club soda or an
Totally.
iced tea.
It
You
feels
know,
kind of exclusionary in a way. You don't mean for it to, but you're a little left out on what's going on. You still don't get that beautiful presentation. You don't get something that looks fun and seems fun. It's nice to have something that there's been thought behind.
and then from a revenue side of things, I would rather sell a 12.95,
Mm-hmm.
ginseng your heart out than, a $3 Coke. So there's some economics there too, but ultimately it's just really being thoughtful. I
Mm-hmm.
think, back to, just being a place that's inclusive, I want people that don't want alcohol to also feel like they've got a place, like a
Mm-hmm.
go-to spot that's going to be
Yeah.
good. They can bring their friends. So the walk-in is, kind of a mixture of, PBR in a shot or
Yeah.
a sweet strong drink or a craft
Or
cocktail or, you
or
know,
spirit free. Mm-hmm.
or a spirit free. And, so pretty much these days I'm not really touching, anything that's happening at the bar
Oh, okay.
for the most part. But in the first probably 6 months, it was a lot of fun because, when you open, you're really busy, right? Because you're the new thing. And so we opened in October, right into the holiday season. So I'd be in the kitchen cooking, and then as soon as I can get out of the kitchen, I'd go bar back and, wash glasses behind the bar. And, it was just great to see, kind of step back and say, oh, this idea worked. This is great. And
Yay. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, it sounds like with your spirit-free selections, also that when booze-free January rolls around, you're already set.
yeah.
you. You're under control. And now you do what they told you. You're under control. And now you do what they told you. You're under control. And now you do what they told you. Now you're under control. And now you do what they told you. Now you're under control. And now you do what they told you. You're under control. And now you do what they told you. You're under control. And now you do what they told you. Those who died are justified. But wearing the badge, they get chosen white. You're justified. Those that died, but wearing the badge, they get chosen white. Those who died are justified. But wearing the badge, they get chosen white. You're justified. Those that died, but wearing the badge, they get chosen white.
Well, this is
Yeah.
about music too. So I'd love to dive into the music side with you a little bit. And did you yourself ever play music? Were you a
Yeah, so
musician?
I'm terrible, but I picked up a guitar.
Usually I have a guitar hiding in the back there, which hasn't been touched in a decade. So I feel you on that.
Um, I dabbled. I can play the chords on a guitar.
Same.
I've owned a few guitars. I did have an opportunity when I was younger to briefly front like a garage band, but I can't really sing either. But it
Well, but
was,
for a band like that, that works.
um, but no, it was. I've always loved music has been just like something that I just have always felt connected to, and I think they're so it's so entwined in like restaurant culture and bar culture, and
Yeah.
it's just a natural fit.
I think it really is. I think for you too, you said you grew up in New Orleans, you made it over to Jackson. You're in the South. There's music everywhere on top of that. So I'm sure it was unavoidable. So you must have been growing up hearing music all the time. And you talked about being a kid and being taking the ferry over to the French Quarter where you soon, I mean, everywhere you go in that part of New Orleans, there's just music coming out of every corner. So what are some good music memories you have when you were a kid? Stuff like that, seeing bands on the street, going to shows, festivals.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely one of them is just like taking the ferry from Algiers Point over to the quarter and just like you're just immediately like impacted with the sidewalk bands and
Hmm.
my dad loved music. My memories of him would be my mom telling him to turn it down, whether we were in the car and he's playing. He uh, he had an old Macintosh receiver that you had to keep a fan on, or else it would overheat in his record collection. And so, I think I was asking my 14-year-old today. I was like, what were your first memories of music?" And because I was thinking about what mine were, and
Mhm.
I think it was hearing like Chuck Mangione and like Dr. John like blaring,
Mm.
in my room from downstairs when he was playing it. He had these really big speakers. But I think the point of view that New Orleans has is really something that affected me in many ways.
Yeah.
It's people made decisions as New Orleans was developing
Hmm.
and evolving. I think the worst thing with making art, making a cocktail, music, whatever, is to not have a point of view. And New Orleans is a city that really has that point of view, and
Hmm.
the so the music there, definitely and is a part of my great childhood memory selection. And then I was in high school in the early and mid 90s.
Hmm.
So the music of that era, that was a really fun time to be a teenager,
It's your comfort food music in a way, right?
yeah, yeah. I
Were you an
mean,
emo
just
kid?
no, it was more like I think I had two loves back at that age. It would either be, the Temple of the Dog, Soundgarden,
Ah.
Melvin's Screaming Trees side of things, and then there
Hmm.
was the Hendrix, and then I learned that Hendrix covered All on the Watchtower. That was a Bob Dylan song, and then that
Hmm.
led me to discovering Neil Young, and then I discovered Frank Zappa from a friend, and so I had this kind of mix of all that. But it was a really exciting time for me personally to be in that moment, where it
Do
was
you
so
remember
exciting.
what made you pick up the guitar? Even if you didn't take it anywhere, something made you grab that guitar.
I think I was, you know, probably I want to say it was probably Dylan because I was just really into his
Mm.
lyrics.
Hmm.
And, you know, he doesn't seem like he's a very good guitar player, but he actually is.
Oh yeah.
And some of his stuff is kind of difficult to play, but I listened to a lot of that when I was younger. And when I was like a lot younger, I was into like Van Halen, so like the guitar god
Yeah.
people. And I was like, this is so cool. I'm gonna ride my skateboard and play guitar. Um, and
Did you at
then
least
as I
ride?
got older,
Did you at least do the
oh,
skateboard part? You said you
I did
didn't play
skateboard.
guitar, you did skateboard. Okay, good.
I can still skateboard. Yeah,
Okay,
my
cool,
wife won't
cool.
let me, but
I know we're a little older. We don't heal as fast.
so like at the same time, like the high school, that was my first restaurant job, and so the guys that owned it on Friday and Saturday, after the restaurant part closed, they turned it into like this live music place, and so I was like busboy, dishwasher
Mhm.
kind of job. And so the place just kind of filled up with people, a whole different crowd, a whole new energy. And him and his buddies would get up there and play like, just whatever their favorite songs were. And,
Ah,
you know,
fun.
yeah, it was good.
So I have to ask because you asked your son, what were his memories? Because they were probably informed by you and your wife.
So I have two sons and three
Mhm.
daughters. And Rocco is my youngest son, and he's 14. He said listening to Christmas music
Aw.
was his first. Um, his brother is 20, about to be 21,
Mhm.
Joey, and I started a playlist for Joey when he was about 2.5, 3 years old,
Yeah.
and kept it for his entire childhood, like all the way through the end of high school. So
Wow.
um, I played them music all the time, though. Probably, The Who and Beastie
Mm.
Boys and Beatles and
It's all over the
Thin
place.
Lizzy,
Yeah.
just all over the place.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, since you've taken over or taken ownership within Hal and Mal's, have there been any awesome shows that you've seen while you've been there? Or I mean, you probably saw some before it was yours, but that you can be like, "Oh, I'm so happy I still have this place going."
Yeah, I think the best, my favorite one is I don't know if you've heard of this indie artist. Her name is Sunny War, and
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, she's great. Oh my gosh.
sh
What was she putting out? Has it been like 2 years since that last album? I feel like it's
I
been a
think she's
minute.
touring on a new album.
Oh gosh,
She
look
might be
into
touring on a
it.
new album
I
right
better look into it. Yeah, I know
now.
the last one. Cool.
So that was outstanding. Yeah, that was my personal favorite. And then my son actually, Joey, is a musician,
Mhm.
and he had a
Nice.
band that they broke up now, but they were called Miss Bloom. They're on Spotify and Apple Music, and
Miss Bloom.
just a hmm
Okay.
Blume.
Okay.
Just kind of like a almost like a Caius inspired. If you
Oh,
remember the
nice. Yeah, no, I know
yeah,
Caius. I was just talking
okay,
about them
yeah,
the other day. Yeah. I was talking
yeah.
about like, oh, sure, you like Queens of the Stone Age, but did you like Caius? It's like that
I knew I would love
conversation.
this podcast. Hell yeah.
It's just nerd talk, that's all.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. So he plays in a band like that? Dude.
So yeah, I would say they're like a mix of Caius, the Stooges, and the Doors. Just
Wow.
I love their
So
album.
they're serious and they're heavy.
But yeah, we've got some exciting ones like coming up that are like I can't announce yet, but
Mhm.
that was my favorite. I think Sunny War. I went to New Orleans to see LCD Sound System a few months ago.
So
That
good.
was very solid. Saw Ryan Bingham there. Did see Queens of the Stone Age a few years ago on tour
Mhm.
down south too. So
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Cool. So now, so you've kind of got both. I mean, they may not be in the same place, but since this is the booze side and we talked about the walk-in, how that's new and that's the crafty, what's the playlist like over there for folks and who is responsible for that?
so we have quite a few. Like I started out in the beginning with like kind of like a Strokes heavy one,
Mhm.
just because that was what I was in the mood for.
Well, also you were saying it's a late night kind of place. So
Mhm.
what kind of vibe do you want to cultivate for late night? Is it still party vibe? Because like I can see Stroke. Stroke sounds wonderful at 1 a.m.
Yeah,
Unless you're trying to like calm people down, and get them ready to go.
energy I think is important, and my team, restaurant people always know about music, and
Yeah.
so on our team, we've got a person that just books all the music, and keeps me kind of informed of what younger people are listening to right now. But um,
Wait, 5 kids isn't enough to keep you informed on what kids are listening to? I would think as long as you've got teenagers around, you're gonna know.
So yeah, it's a pretty eclectic playlist, I think. And as you get to know someone, you learn to trust them with the playlist a little bit. But
Mhm.
mine would be like old Nikki Lane, Husker
Oh,
Du, Fontaines DC, Enola Gay, of course, LCD Sound System, Orchestra Baobab, the African Cuban
yeah,
vibe, but just
yeah. Mhm.
all up with the energy.
I
I
love
think around the
all
hot.
of those are as you're listening, I'm like, great band, great band, great band. Like every single one, I'm like, oh, and such an it is a very eclectic mix, and it's amazing. I think now, when we were younger, people kind of stayed in their lane and then kind of started being like, oh, I'm kind of crazy. I listen to Cuban jazz too. Oh, I'm kind of and veered out. And now it's not strange at all to, as I put it, like be able to skip a rock across a pond and hit like six different spots, right? It's like you can hit all these different genres and you know something about each of these genres. I think you also grew up in a place that was so music heavy that you were influenced by so much or just heard so many styles. I love that kids these days don't seem to care about genre or era or anything. It's just good music. And it sounds like that's what you're doing in your space.
Yeah, it's so important, and they never turn it loud enough when they walk in. I have a setting for that, and I'm like, this is how loud it needs to be, guys. Um, you can still talk to the person next to you, but you walk in, and it's part of the experience, and it's important to me, to have good music. And then we do some fun things like we're partnering with there's a local record store owned by a DJ
Hmm.
in town, and he'll come in every other Thursday and do an event called Needle Drop. And he just takes over. We have a turntable in there, and he just
Hmm.
takes over the records, brings his records, and he'll just like feature like a certain label or a certain era or whatever he wants to do basically. And people turn out like
Nice.
pretty heavily for something like that.
That's cool.
So we got a big record collection in there that we got from him, and so we'll occasionally just like turn the music off and play records that we have.
Oh my God, that's so cool. I love that. There's some spots that I've been to. They've come and gone here in LA. Well, they will do that. And they're like, oh, we're a listening hi-fi bar. And they think they're doing the Japanese thing, but nobody can do it like the Japanese and have a good
Yeah,
sound system and stuff. But there'll be the record up there and you can hear it. And usually the spaces are maybe a little too big for that to really have the vibe and such. But I do appreciate it because vinyl always just has a certain sound. Even if people are talking, you can still kind of tell when it's vinyl.
and I think it's we all tell the story of like, well, I remember when you had cassettes or you had to make like a mixtape or
Yep.
whatever. Um, but we also had to buy like albums and like go out and spend money, on a
Hmm.
CD or something.
Hmm.
And so it was like, really important to find the CD that was like as few skips as possible, right? Now it's all playlists, but so when you can have a
Mhm.
record that you can play all the way through, and it really, when we were shopping for records, that was, what I was looking for was,
What's one
is
that's
this one
good
gonna,
from start to finish, right?
yeah.
Hmm. That's
I went,
wonderful.
I went to college at Johnson and Wales, a culinary school in Providence, Rhode Island, and they had a great indie radio station there.
Nice.
And it was like the first week or two that I got up there, the Pearl Jam the Vitalogy album had just come out, or it
Hmm.
was about to come out. And so at midnight, they played the whole
The
record
whole
all the
thing.
way through on the radio. And I like stayed up all night long listening to it because you couldn't
Ah,
buy it yet.
yeah, that's awesome.
So I love that kind of stuff.
And now you brought it back. Well, I always like to ask this, and it's the kind of wrapping things up question is the for you, if you have downtime for yourself, if you're sitting around and you're chilling, you're giving yourself a break, what are you listening to and what are you drinking?
I think it depends on the mood. I think
Hmm.
I'm listening to a lot of like, African Cuban kind of orchestra
Hmm.
baobab stuff right now. And um, during the Christmas season, for some reason, it just feels like Italian gangster Frank Sinatra time. So Songs for Swingin' Lovers by Frank Sinatra is
Yep.
about to start.
That's a perfect record for this time of year. Well, if you're
Um,
listening to that, then what are you drinking? What goes with Frank?
this does not go with Frank, but this is my go-to. There's a drink called the bee's knees, and there's a version of that with mezcal called Killer Bee. So,
Oh,
it's mezcal, honey syrup, fresh lemon juice, and then I like mine spicy. So, like, make a little jalapeno or serrano
mhm.
shaken in that. So, a Killer Bee with a
Wow.
mezcal. Um,
Wow. That sounds amazing. I am a bad Latina. I can't do spicy, but other than that, I'm totally down to give that a try because that sounds amazing. How have I not had that yet? And that's your
you gotta
go-to?
try it.
I know. Oh, I'm
Gotta
going to
try
try it. I'm going to try it probably later this evening. I think I have all the ingredients except for that jalapeno, which I don't need. That's
it.
amazing. Thank you for telling me about that because yeah, you it's a new cocktail on my list. That's terrible and wonderful all at the same time. Well, thank you so much. I don't know if you have any socials that you want to share, either yourself or maybe the various venues, because it sounds like if people come, they can see music at Hal and Mal's, or they can come have a craft cocktail over at the Walk-In. There's a little something for everybody.
Sure. Hallamals.com has all of the live music that's happening there. The walk-in, jxn.com for the walk-in. And you can find us on Instagram and Facebook as well. And
All the same
there's
stuff.
always something going on.
Awesome, cool. Well, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of insight into Jackson. Just I know it's just the tiniest bit, but to me they're my favorite bits, the music and the booze. So,
Yes, absolutely.
so yeah, thank you so much.
aduna ko mana jooy luy wey la dama toog ba digi joor tëdd nelaw jeex xel mi dem ci laxira de moo wóor
It's great to hear about a place that I have not been and hope to go to that might be a little bit off the radar for someone like myself. And it's right here in the good old US of A. Hal and Mal's can be found on the Instagram at Hal instead of and, it's letter N, Mal's. And of course, there's the Walk-In at the Walk-In, just IN, not two N's, just one. JXN Jackson. So Hal and Mal's and the Walk-In Jackson on the Instagram. So follow them to find out what they are up to and go visit if you can. And if you do, please tell me about it. I don't know when I'll ever get to Mississippi, but I don't know. I used to go to New Orleans a lot. It's just kind of a hop, skip, and jump over, right? Something like that. Thank you, Damien, so much for talking with me and enlightening my world and reminding me of so much great music, which you can hear more of if you jump over to the Music and Booze Spotify page. We'll have a playlist there that Damien put together for us. So thanks so much to Damien and The Walk-In and Hal and Mouse. Thank you for tuning in to our barroom chats on Music and Booze with Mo. For more info about today's guest, or if you want to connect with me, check out my Facebook page, Mo Herms. Please subscribe to the podcast and feel free to tell all your friends about it. While you're there, give the show a rating and a review. It really helps to get the word out. If you want to hear the playlists our guests have curated, search She Be Mo on Spotify, SHEBMO. Find pictures of the interviewees and the cool stuff they create on the Music and Booze with Mo Instagram account. Lower your expectations and join us at the bar. Till next time, cheers.